Okay, we've been learning a lot. We have our character Corey here, and we can adjust his speed. There's bounds detection in all ways. However, we probably want to show this project off. And I think that even showing it like this would be completely fine if you can speak to the underlying technologies. So another variation is we have this thing on a public website here. This is in a web browser. And then you could share the link with your future employer if you're going for an interview, or just have it on your resume. And this works completely as you would expect. There's bounds detection. And then you can place some text here to practice talking about it. Just review what you learned in the course. Async IO, asynchronous functions, lambda. We've covered all of these concepts: while loop, conditionals, if else, or multiple conditions with match case, Boolean logic, which is the if, and then there's a condition, lists, enum for the data type, Docker, which we'll cover as we deploy this. So you haven't learned this Docker serverless cloud deploy and GitHub and Git yet, but we're about to learn it right now. The way this is structured is the title of the project is at the top, and I'm picking a more technical topic because the idea here is for people that want to show it to a future employer, you showcase some of your knowledge, and then there's the author here. In this case, he's no longer a student. This is a real person, president of ASGI. Real university that he went to, and so you might put like CS and the name of your school, like San Jose State, or wherever you're going, and the real situation. So there's different ways to deploy the application, but just to give you a bit more practice, we're going to use something called Uvicorn, which is a asynchronous web gateway. And you can just follow along. So we're going to comment this portion out here. We'll set up a app equals ft.app, target equals main, asset directory equals assets, and we'll export ASGI app equals true. And we will add add Uvicorn. Let's put in some quotes here, which is standard. Okay, so we should have Uvicorn installed now. So since I have the virtual environment enabled, I'm gonna run Uvicorn with the name of the file with :app. I'm gonna specify reload, and there's a typo. It should be assets directory with S. So I'll save it again, and it reloaded it. Let's go to a web browser. It's localhost :8000 right there. So this is running locally. If I do Control C here down, it's going to stop. So we know that's connected to this particular port here. So reload, and it's usable on the web. We're having some problems with this, but we're going to delete it anyway. Okay, so let's go ahead and, whoa, he's gone. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this background here. I don't think we need it. And then I'm going to delete the background that we're adding to the stack. Reloaded it. He's probably still going off the screen at this point. max width equals game area dot width if game area dot width else this is set to 800. So if the game area, if it can't grab it at that point, it will use the 800. I think when the game first loads, it doesn't know the max width. Okay, it works. This is a ternary operator or Python conditional. So if this game area dot width, so if this is set, this portion will be true, and it's going to return this. Else, it will return 800. You might be familiar with this from other languages. It's called a ternary operator, or a conditional expression, and then you can look it up. Okay, you're gonna need some type of graphic if you decide to use a human as the character animation. So what I did is I actually fed this into the ChatGPT image filter, and I asked it to make a transparent background of this guy's head. His name's Jesse Kasman, he's a real person. And then it outputted this, and I just kind of like cut it out a little bit. So, but I now have graphic. I used GIMP as the image editor. You can look it up, GIMP. It's free and open source. Okay, so let's say that you have the graphic, then you need to drop it into this assets folder here at the top level of the project. And I'm using this WebP format, and I have it set to 150 times 124 pixels. So again, this is your project, and you can decide if you want to put your own picture in there or not. It's a little humorous on the interview. You might want to put something more serious. It kind of depends who you are and what your personality is like, but I think Jesse's funny. He's not applying for a job, he's just a real person. And so he's kind of the baseline here that we're using. Okay. And the image is going to be a little, so it's actually 160 times 124. 160 times 124. Let's just see whether it works first. Okay, there he is. Need to restart the server, I think. Okay. We have him now moving around. Perfect. Very good. Pretty cool. In the original game, we called it Corey, the variable names, and we didn't make this thing very flexible. I should have used character. For example, character underscore width, character underscore height, and Corey. But then we'd have to go through all of them. You could use AI to change it. You could use search and replace with Command F or Control F. But I think for now, I think because it's hard coded in here, I'm just gonna leave it and focus on some other customizations. You do want to make it as unique as possible to yourself if you are going to use it as a type of asset for your portfolio. So above the place where it says start async loop, I'm going to do Control B here to collapse the sidebar. Gives a little bit more space to work with. Okay, so let's call it the project title. ft.text, you used this before. And we'll put, first we'll just put a string async, maybe Python async communication. And you definitely want to make sure you know what this is if you're going to put it in your portfolio. We imported a package async IO right there. You studied different types of async communication in this course. We're using the industry standard, maybe the easier way to do it not too low level. You start with async, so this is an asynchronous function, and you use await, so async await, and if you follow the videos, you know that it's in a separate thread, but this async library that we're using handles it for us. So it's pretty nice. I think you can just speak to the async and the await in this while loop with it's going to sleep on this one process for 0.1 seconds while leaving the rest of the application open to other communications. I think if you just say background process and async await, you don't have to know it too deeply. You could research it, of course. All right, but let's add it in here. So under this page add, I'm going to go project title, and I'll end it with a comma. And let's see, okay, it's right here. It's right at the top. And we'll make it bigger. So I want the size to be maybe 40, and weight will be ft.font weight.bold. Okay. See what it looks like. Very nice. You could put your name up here if you wanted to as the top thing. So let's make another section here for the author name equals ft.text, and in this case I think we want to emphasize that it was developed by you, developed by your name, and I think I want to put this guy's university because it's a famous university, local university, but became quite famous, Stanford University. I think people have heard of it. So there's no size, right, and weight here. So it's going to be, oh, I didn't add it in. We'll drop it in on the project title, author, name. Okay, it's small, but you're the one being interviewed, so you probably want to make it big. You can improve the styling. There's a whole bunch if you go to the Flet website, but let's go size equals 30. Oh. And we'll use the same weight, ft for Flet, font, weight, dot, and let's go bold again. Okay, looking good. So we can kind of, you need to promote yourself here, but it's justified, right, because you're doing the work. And then I'll just put an example of, maybe what you know, especially if you continue to practice it. This is just the starter, right? During intern interview, ask me about, and we'll put some topics here. We'll just get the layout first. We'll go description. The name of the variable that we just added in here for description. Just a little smaller. Okay, so it's right here, but we want to emphasize your knowledge, so I think I'll make it a bit bigger. So I'm going to go size 20. And you can just change it, so it's bigger here. So we're going to now put some stuff that you know. Okay, so we'll get rid of the 3 little dots for now. And I'm going to put this, put enter, I'm going to put a plus sign like that. So it's going to add the two strings together in Python. So definitely async IO is the name of the package, right, that we just implemented. And the concept is asynchronous communication. Asynchronous functions and lambda, which is also called anonymous function in many languages, including JavaScript. And this, it's just a, it sounds kind of weird, right? Lambda, but it's just a name. The lambda is right here. It's an anonymous function. So you can just write this function, a bit of code here that is going to run when it's clicked. That's all it does. So in JavaScript, it's the parentheses, and then you normally have this arrow going across. But in Python, it's a bit more verbose. You don't normally use lambda that often. However, if you use another language, if they want you to program in JavaScript, you can use it very heavily. And it's also used pretty heavily in Dart, which is the basis of Flutter. So it's basically saying that you can use a anonymous function. You have some experience with it at least. The while loop, right? So there's two different loops you learned, the for loop and the while loop. And okay, maybe I'll put a new line here for now. Oh, put a comma at the end. Conditionals, and there are two types. There is if else, right? And there were many uses of this if else, especially for the bounds detection. So there's if here, else, if else. You kept using it in the buttons. There's this Boolean logic that goes with it too. So there's another conditional, which is match case, and we used it for the directions with the enum. So it's match case. This is a type of conditional that can, in other languages, it might be called a switch statement, but in Python, it's match case. You have to be using Python 3.10 or above to use it. But in this course, we're using Python, I think 3.13 or 3.12. So it's above the, it supports this type of conditional matching. And since it's new, your employer might be interested in it because they might be older and they may not know the newer features of Python. I think you should put Boolean logic, which is the true, false, and or. You've probably learned it in school, and we did use it in the earlier portions of this course. So especially with the if statement. Lists are also called arrays in other languages. That's not Python. And functions the same as an array in most cases. Then we have our enum, which is the data type we were just talking about. And this is not supposed to be there. And we will be covering Docker when we go to deployment, serverless cloud deploy, GitHub, and Git. Okay, hopefully you have Git installed when we get to the next lesson. Let's see what it looks like here. Oh, look at this. Very nice, right? Very nice. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to deploy this thing to a system called Fly, and you can then have it up and link to your portfolio on a public site. It's cheap. Unfortunately, it's not free. I think in the future we will cover free options, but I already had some experience with Fly, and so the first pass of this is with Fly. It is under $1 a month, but it's pretty cheap.